All right, what is going on, ladies and gentlemen? How we doing tonight? Yes, you just heard my voice earlier this evening. We did a Niners and Houston preview, but tonight we are doing Chicago Bears coverage. We are going to be talking to two of our guests that are big Bears fans. First, we're going to bring on the CFC crew. What's going on, man?
Hey, how's it going?
Good, you?
Yeah, pretty good. Not too bad. Excited to talk Bears.
Right?
Always excited to talk about the Bears.
So tell my fans who you are, and I know we talked on quick notice, but I'm glad you responded, and here we are.
Yeah, so I'm Steve. I'm with the Chicago Football Connection at CFC Bears. You can follow me on Twitter. I run a Bears blog, Bears YouTube podcast where I do a lot of film breakdowns. So remember, just follow me on Twitter at CFC Bears, ChicagoFootballConnection.com. Always putting out good Bears stuff and talking just NFL in general too.
So you do cover an NFL, not just Bears.
Mostly Bears, but some NFL tweets too.
Right, it's hard to focus on one team.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm watching all the games anyways. I'm going to comment on the games when I'm watching them.
Right. I think we all do. All right, I'm going to bring in my next guest. He is a returning guest. My good buddy that I've met online. I'm going to bring him in right now, and that is Mr. NFL Outdated. I feel awkward. I don't have a Bears jersey, but you guys do.
We'll mail you one. We'll mail you one. How about
I got a couple extra ones. Like I said, do you want a Mitch Trubisky jersey? I got you.
Oh, nice. Yes, yes.
Sure. Even though I'm rooting for the other guy to start. No, I don't care. I just want to win. I want what's best for my team, obviously. If Mitch going to get the job done, I guess we'll talk some Pittsburgh real quick.
I got the answer for you. The answer is no.
So how long before we see Pickett?
I can't say I've been following Pittsburgh too much, but just knowing Mitch Trubisky, it's going to be 3-4 weeks.
Well, yeah, it sounds like Pickett's had a good camp so far, but I don't know. I mean, thankfully for the Steelers, you don't have Matt Nagy, who's going to hang on just because he wants to, and they're actually everybody's getting reps. So the best quarterback actually can win and start.
We do have Pickett's old college offensive coordinator, Canada. So maybe there's an edge there. Who knows?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I would say I think I tweeted out when they hired him. I said it's weird that the Steelers hired the least offensive country, Canada.
Nice.
Oh, what kind of responses did you get?
That was pretty dead. That was bad. So that was before I knew you and before you helped me explode, Mr. Sports Talking It.
I like growing. It's fun.
Yeah.
Getting to know people. Obviously, we're now meeting Steve tonight. So I'm excited, ready to go. So NFL, what do you got going on? Anything?
Yeah, I mean, I've actually been guesting a lot, but doing the every Wednesdays at 8:30 Central, the Freezing 4 podcast, and we have a member of each of the NFC North teams come on, and we're usually pretty reasonable. Unfortunately, lately we have not had our Packers guests; they've backed out, so the three of us have taken turns. Basically, the segment of non-Packer fans poking fun at the Packer wide receiver time. So.
Why didn't you reach out to me? I would have reached out to one of my Packers guys and see if they wanted to come on and fill the void.
I reached out to a few. We've got someone probably next week, and but so doing some of the interviews with teams, podcasters, and really trying to get to know fantasy football wise as much as I can, and really make connections with all the NFL teams. But Bears, that's I'm not all that hopeful for this year, but I like where the team's going. I know we'll probably get into that. So. I'm just excited now that we have leadership that it feels like we're going in the right direction. So
Now, I'm just curious, do you guys think one day we're going to put Justin Fields on this all-time list?
I hope so. He better.
Yeah.
He better be. It's not that hard for a quarterback to break the Bears all-time list. So he doesn't even have to be that good to do it. So I'm going to say
held
yes.
by what? Jay Cutler, 23,000 yards or something.
Yeah.
Well, so I went with Sid Luckman just to let everyone know.
It's really between those two guys.
Oh, really?
Three guys. I would say there's three guys in the conversation that I thought of. Luckman, Cutler, and then Jim McMahon.
Yeah, and talent-wise, I mean, obviously Luckman, none of us, I mean, we don't know. I haven't really seen him play, he's default kind of the best player. And I think we did this, Adam, we did this with the Cubs and Brewers, and we kind of talked, is it the best player or is it the best player you've seen? And so if I, say the best player I've seen, it has to be Jim McMahon because he's the one that did it when it mattered. Obviously they had a team, a defense that, did it as well. But, he was just that guy. And for me, it's that kind of having that, ability to get the team over the hump. That's why Jim McMahon, in my opinion, is the number one guy because, Sid Luckman, I, don't really have much reference point for him.
I don't either, but what they said he was pretty damn good. So,
yeah, I mean, I went with Sid Luckman too. I thought about Jim McMahon. I thought about Cutler. I think Jay Cutler is the most talented quarterback to ever play for the Bears, just in terms of pure talent. But I just couldn't put him as the best, just because he didn't win anything. So I went with Sid Luckman, four-time NFL champ. Thought about going.
Would be my backup though, and McMahon would be my backup.
Yeah,
because that Bears '85 Bears team just something that was special.
Yeah. I did tend to lean with all my other picks, kind of more recent guys that I grew up watching, but I just couldn't go Cutler because I don't
that's someone asked me today, like, how would you make, like, some people have made their list off of their greatest players they've seen, and then some have made their list off of the franchise history.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's your team and you create what you want to create. Now, Gina, she said McMahon would probably be her QB a pick. She must be she likes Jimmy. All right.
Well, I would say the other thing too is a quarterback that's done it for a long period of time. He wasn't really, there all that long when you look at it. I mean, when you look at the Bears, I mean, 85, but, they were supposed to kind of, keep it going. But when the life of a quarterback, it was really kind of just, he was there and then he wasn't. So.
Yeah.
Right. What was he there? 4 years?
I don't know.
Yeah, it was,
wasn't it?
I don't think so. Well, let's look.
I got it up 1, 2, 4,
I
5.
did it down. I feel kind of
7 years in Chicago.
So
but
really,
but he was also injured a lot. I mean, the last couple of years he was not. He only played like 6 games each year or something like that. So
he was injured.
Yeah, I mean, even the Super Bowl year, he only played 11 games.
That's a great point. Yep.
Luckman did go 98, 32, and 3, 51%. He only had 14,000 yards,
Yeah, you can't really compare the stats
Mm-mm.
though
Mm-mm.
in
No,
between
well,
eras.
they
With
played
like
10 games, I think, during that era.
other positions is a little easier, but quarterback play is just so different. You just can't compare the stats. So that's why I just went based on, you know, uh, championships and winning more than
Mm-hmm.
just looking at the stats, because Cutler's stats are better than Sid Luckman's, but Luckman actually won something, so that's why I ended up going with him.
Absolutely. Agree there.
I went with the 1-2 punch and running backs. I mean, it was really hard to not go Sales and Peyton.
Yeah, it was a lot more fun looking at the running back than it was looking at the quarterbacks for the Bears. A lot more to choose from. So yeah, I want Peyton and Sayers too. I don't know who. I mean, I love Matt Forte, but I wouldn't put him in that category of those two guys. Thomas
No, you
Jones, Neil Anderson, other guys, but like it's pretty clear 1-2 punch for Chicago there.
It is, and Thomas. Matt Forte was just so smooth. I liked, I loved watching him run.
Catch
but
the ball out of the backfield too.
Yes, yep. But yeah, when you think of all time, Peyton is, in my opinion, is the best running back of all time. I mean, but then you also have Gale Sayers. So those are those are obvious choices, for sure.
Like that was Ditka's biggest disappointment of that Super Bowl in 86. Well, it would have been 86, but not giving Peyton the ball to score, and instead he gave it to the fridge. That was Ditka's biggest takeaway from the Super Bowl. It wasn't really winning it. It was I didn't get Peyton in the end zone.
And it's so weird.
That is a shame.
Yeah, and it's so weird kind of thinking back to kind of the post game, Walter Payton didn't even want to talk to the media. He was, kind of sulking in the corner. And it's I mean, I don't know, how much that's really talked about, but yeah, I just crazy to think like how much that hurt him. Hey, Frankie.
Frankie said hi there, Mr. Outdated. Gina throwing some more. Remember the 85 team because I'm old. So
that's why I figure, like, Packer fans always, rag on us Bear fans, like, well, you're living in the past, 85, but you can't take it away. As a Cubs fan, 2016, you can't take it away. And probably one of the best defenses ever. So, I mean, I'll hang my hat on that.
Defense wins championships.
And personalities too. What other? I don't know if you have one of these, but I have the VHS of the Super Bowl Shuffle still with me. So, what other team? I
don't even know if I still have a VHS player, but I know you can just look it up on YouTube pretty easily.
Yeah, but the VHS is more fun.
Do you remember the betas? The little 8 ones?
Yes.
Those were out about the same time.
Yeah, they were. Yep.
We're going old school here, Ed.
We're dating ourselves here.
I'm gonna be honest.
Is that good or bad?
I'm feeling very young right now, which I don't get very much these days. So I very much appreciate it.
Yeah, it was. You go into a rental store. Mine in Iowa was Curtis Mathis, and they've got you could get a VHS or a beta. You can choose. It was and you actually I still remember getting our first VHS player. I felt we rented Karate Kid, the original one, not Cobra Kai.
And if you didn't rewind and fast forward the VCR tapes, you could possibly get the little like sketch in the middle of them.
Oh yeah, and I worked at Blockbuster as well, so I had to every time they came in, I would rewind them and all that stuff. But
we are living old school here, Steve.
We are, yeah.
Well, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, wide receiver wise, it's actually quite depressing looking at the Bears all-time receiving list. And do you know this list, Steve?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of went younger with my guys. I mean, I know there was like Harlan Hill, Johnny Morris, like those guys, but
what I was going to say, how the depressing part of it, who is number 4 on the all-time receiving list?
Is it Alshon Jeffrey?
Nope.
Who
It's
is it?
Walter Payton.
Walter Payton. Okay, yeah.
That's
I was
like,
gonna
I
say,
mean,
I was gonna say, I don't think it was a wide receiver.
exactly.
Right,
And
that makes sense.
Matt Forte is number 7.
Yeah.
Like this
Matt
is
Forte cut so many screen passes and
it's
just
true.
took off and yeah. So speaking of that, Gina posted this. Forte was great on fantasy.
Oh, he's amazing. Yeah.
Forte,
You
he also came around right when like PPR fantasy was starting to take off too. So that was before like people were just drafting like those running backs who were in 300 carries, but then PPR came around and if you were able to get Matt Forte, you were set.
Mm-hmm.
I had Forte a couple years.
So who did you go for your wide receivers then, Steve?
So how many wide receivers are we picking? I forget what
4.
it was. 4? Okay, so I have a list here that I'm still kind of deciding between. I went, I put Johnny Morris and Harlan Hill on there because those are. Like
I did too. I have those too as well.
But then I wanted to go kind of different direction with my 2 other guys. Maybe they're not the best, most hats, but I went with Marty Booker just because I remember, and I also threw in. I thought, and then there were other guys that I considered. I considered like Willie Gault, Brandon Marshall, Alshon Jeffrey, but I threw Devin Hester in there. I know he wasn't a great receiver, but he's the best return man of all time, and I think he was an underrated receiver as well. And I will go to my grave saying that if Devin Hester played in today's NFL, he would be a hell of a wide receiver with more creative offensive coordinators, more screen passes. Just getting to the ball and letting him create after the catch. I think he would be like a Tyreek Hill kind of guy, maybe not Tyreek Hill level talent, but a guy who would be really good in today's NFL. So I put Devin Hester in there mostly just as a shout out to a great player.
Yeah, when you think back, like who are his head coaches, like Dick Duran and some of those,
Lovie Smith and all those offensive coordinators that we just cycled through, Mike Martz and all those guys. Like,
oh yeah. I went with players that I had seen before, and Alshon Jeffrey. I mean, when you just think of like him, and I didn't realize like he's number 3 on the all-time receiver list. And
he was higher than I thought too.
Yeah, and
he was there for what 5 seasons. Then he went to the Eagles, won the Super Bowl.
I think it was,
which he predicted as well.
5 seasons. Yeah,
you remember he said my teams were going to win the Super Bowl, and obviously then he was traded and. So I went with Alshon Jeffrey. So we went with 4. Willie Gault's on there. I'm going to go with Brandon Marshall. Number 3.
Brandon Marshall too. At the 2 years, and he had over 3,500 yards.
Yeah, he was.
And I think he was 11 on the all-time list.
He's number 13 on the list.
13. Okay.
Yeah, kind of like I said with Jay Cutler. I think Brandon Marshall is the most talented wide receiver the Bears have ever had. I just didn't go with him because he only played 2 years.
Yeah,
him and Jay Cutler were
great wide receiver.
I mean, that was a great core to bring in.
It was. I'm going to go with Curtis Conway. He's at number 6. So
the Niners guy. He got traded to the Niners, or he went there for free agency for a year.
Yeah, so like as I'm thinking, it is hard. I mean, you got the list, you got some of these older players, but to really have a reference point, and when you think of Bears receivers, we haven't had a good quarterback in a while, so you're not seeing on NFL films like slow motion of all these Bears wide receivers at the top of the list because they're just all the slow motion plays are Walter Payton, Gale Sayers, because it was that running team. You didn't have the quarterback, so. But yeah, those are great players as well. It would be interesting. I'm going to have to now go back and kind of see if we can find some like video on Johnny Morris and Harlan Hill, some of those older players.
Yeah. I'll also say about Alshon Jeffrey, because I seriously considered putting him on there. His 2-year run that he had, I forget what years it was, like his 2nd year and his 3rd year were incredible. Like if he would have kept that up, he would have been the best wide receiver in Bears history by far. He just got injuries caught up to him and just never really left it. But that one, I think it was his 3rd year in the league where he had like 1,400 yards and he was incredible.
Do you think that
he had 4,500? Not to be interrupting you out there, he had 4,500 yards in the time he was there with 26 touchdowns.
Also,
Alshon Jeffrey.
Do you think that Alshon Jeffrey, his ability to kind of go up and just get that ball, almost made Jay Cutler better?
No, absolutely. I think Cutler, because Cutler wasn't the most accurate guy. That was, so he was able to just kind of throw it up and let Alshon Jeffrey go up and get it. He didn't have to be pinpoint accurate with a guy like that. Same with Brandon Marshall, those big guys, Martellus Bennett, when they had all three of those guys. The accuracy didn't matter at that point. So, yeah, absolutely. Alshon Jeffrey and all those guys contributed
Jay
to
Cutler create his own grave?
I just don't think he cared or cares. But you listen to him on Brian Urlacher's podcast. I mean, it sounds like he was a tough guy. And when you think about things, like, he just doesn't care. Like, even with his whole divorce in the media, like, he doesn't care.
He joked around with it on Twitter all the time.
Well, yeah, but like, I think he was asked a question about the house or something, and he just was kind of like, well, she got it, like he's not necessarily I don't know, he'll joke about it, but I just don't think he cares about being a cheerleader for himself.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. And that hurt him overall, I think, his legacy, but because he didn't win, like he almost like it, if he was a player like Marino or I feel like they put everything out there. And I think Jay Cutler did as well, but it didn't seem like he did because he kind of, had that, just his face and his demeanor, right?
Yeah.
I was just curious what you guys thought about the Jay Cutler situation. I wasn't in Chicago. I didn't follow Chicago then, so.
I mean, I was a big Jay Cutler apologist when he was there, so I was always kind of defending him on Twitter, or with just sports arguments at bars and stuff like that. But it's been now that he's been retired, looking back on his career, it's just like he was just an average quarterback. He was average. He had good games, and then he had really bad games, and that's the definition of an average quarterback. And so I really don't have too many thoughts on Jay Cutler at this point. If you asked me 10 years ago, I would have gone to bat for him and fought to the death to defend him. But at this point, not so much.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, tight ends. Who'd you get?
Well, it has to be
one was simple, Mike Ditka. Yeah.
Yep.
That was I didn't. I guess I could have said I went Ditka for sure.
Yeah.
Hall of Famer, 5 Pro Bowls, 2 Pro Bowls, 1 Super Bowl, Rookie of the Year. He had a pretty good career.
We're not going to do Cole Kmet.
Cole Kmet. Maybe soon, maybe eventually. Not right now.
That dude is huge in person. Like, he's just, yeah.
Well, that's right. You went. Andy drove down to camp.
Yeah, I was there a couple of days too.
You did go. Yep. And I mean, obviously, you can only learn so much from camp.
For the show, if you guys went, I knew Andy went. I didn't know if you went.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, it's Mike Ditka, the tight end, but the other guy I considered, I just wanted to kind of like give a shout out to because I always loved him, was Desmond Clark. I feel like he was a very underrated player. I mean, he probably is nowhere near a top Bear of all time, but I just love the way he played. It always seemed like every year the Bears were trying to find a tight end to replace Desmond Clark, and then they never did. And Desmond Clark put up a very solid stat line that year. So one of my favorite players, Desmond Clark. So I wanted to give him a shout out.
Great one, yeah.
I wasn't sure if this guy was a tight end or not. It said E next to his name, and that was Ken Cavanaugh.
No, I have him listed as a wide receiver.
It said E, and I thought that was tight end for back then. I wasn't sure.
Been. Well, the other one I had listed, and I don't know much about
Martellus Bennett.
Bill. Well, he had a ton of talent. I mean, that was possible. Bill Hewitt is there, and I don't know a lot about him. I've kind of seen him on lists, but it has to be Mike Ditka.
Yeah.
There was 2 tight ends.
There's 2 tight ends. I guess the other one would, Martellus Bennett, Greg Olsen, maybe.
Greg Olsen.
Greg Olsen. It's hard to put him on there because he wasn't on the Bears for super long.
And neither was Jimmy Graham, huh?
Yeah, well, Jimmy Graham is not making this list.
No.
But,
No.
Greg Olson was really good when he was on the Bears. And then Mike Martz comes in and trades him because he doesn't use a tight end in his system, which is I'm still pissed off about. But I guess he would be number 2, maybe Martellus Bennett, one of those 2 guys probably.
Yeah, almost with the Bears tight ends, you're talking about like potential, like what they could have done for the Bears, but they ended up doing elsewhere or with the Bears, briefly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. I was not sure what Ken Kavanaugh was. It said E, and I thought that was tight end. So that's if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But that's what it said next to his name, and I was like, all right, big guy. So that's why I went there, and apparently I'm wrong. So, occasionally the host is wrong, and I take it. I just didn't know.
I don't know.
What is E? What is E?
He was
and probably I don't know.
Oh yeah, so yeah, it's crazy because he's on the 1940s all decade team, right?
Right.
So that's
he's got a lot of stats.
Football was a lot different back then, right?
Yeah, he probably was a tight end. I mean, I don't know.
All-time leader
yards.
He actually is he's the Bears' all-time leader in receiving touchdowns with 50.
50 touchdowns. That's why I didn't know.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Let's put him on there. Why not?
Yeah. He is listed as an end, but obviously with the different generation of football, it might have been considered a receiver, but end works.
Sure.
The one lineman. This has become difficult in a lot of people's worlds.
Mm-hmm.
I went with Jim Covert from Pittsburgh. I got to see him get inducted into the Hall of Fame. He was part of that 2020 class.
This O-line's a position that's difficult for this because there are no stats for O-line, so you can't just look up stats and say, "Oh, this guy had the most stats." Like he's obviously the choice. So I went with someone that I grew up watching, which is Olin Kreutz. Just because I watched him, so I know exactly how good he was. You got like Clyde Bulldog Turner, Jimbo Covert, Keith Van Horn, all those guys. I'm sure they were very good, but I never saw them, so I can't attest to how good they were. So I went with Olin Kreutz.
I'm gonna go with Olin Kreutz as well. I had a chance to talk to former Buccaneer defensive lineman, James Canada, and Big Game James, and he said that just unprompted that Olin Kreutz was the toughest offensive lineman that he faced, and so coming from someone who actually faced him, you have to say Olin would be there. Now personality wise, he's made some interesting choices and whatnot, but I like Olin as well.
Yeah, I mean, he was a 6-time Pro Bowler, 2-time All-Pro. He made the I actually did not know this, or I probably forgot about it, but he made the Hall of Fame's All-2000s team. So, I think he should be in the Hall of Fame. We'll see if he gets there, but I think for O-line, that's a pretty good pick.
Yeah, I mean, Jay Hilgenberger was another one. Jay Hilgenberg, Mark Bortz. It's thinking of some of those like '90s teams. But yeah.
I just like Jim Covert because I got to see him get inducted. Like I said, when I was doing this, I was like, "Wait, this guy got inducted when I was there." So I got to see him. So I figured I might as well ride it out.
Yeah, makes sense.
And the Bears like a lot of Pittsburgh guys.
I
didn't realize that till I was like doing a little more in depth. Ditka, Pittsburgh. Maybe some defensive guys are from Pittsburgh that we have on our list.
Yeah.
Obviously, Jim Covert. Defensive lineman, Richard Dent.
So we're just doing one defensive lineman?
Yeah. I told you. I took some criticism on doing 1 and 1.
No, that's that makes it more fun. Yeah.
But
you got a lot of options for defensive line. This was a lot more fun to do the defense for the Bears than it was the offense. You got a lot more choices.
Yeah.
Well, you guys have that defensive mind state, and that's sometimes that's what the main focus is, and that's what you remember it as. whether it's the interceptions, whether it's the sacks, whether it's, all the forced fumbles from Tillman.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think Dent's a good choice. I didn't actually narrow it down to one. I have just a list here, but yeah, Dent's a good choice. Dan Hampton, Steve McMichael, Mago. I also went, more like new school guys like Julius Peppers. I included Khalil Mack as a defensive lineman, even though he technically played linebacker, but he was rushing the passer, so I included him there. Tommy Harris was another guy that I thought maybe could be included, but probably Richard Dent or Dan Hampton are probably the two guys they go for.
Yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and say Steve McMichael, Mongo, because he should be in the Hall of Fame.
True.
But yeah, you can't really go wrong with all those people you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Richard Dent had 8 interceptions as a lineman. That's crazy.
Yeah. Also Super Bowl MVP too. So
124 and a half sacks, 34 forced fumbles. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
He's in the Hall of Fame, obviously. Did you take pictures of all your Bears while you were there? Yeah?
I did.
All the enshrinements.
I did. Yeah, I got my picture next to Walter Payton. So, yep.
Nice.
I wasn't sure. I didn't see all of the pictures. I saw some of them.
I need to post more of them.
No, you need to get that Bears interview, then post them all.
That's true.
Lineman, this was the head beater.
Or linebacker, you mean?
Linebacker. I'm sorry. Yes. This was a little bit difficult. It's difficult here.
How many did we say? How many linebackers?
2.
Yeah. I mean, I had my 2. I'm curious to see, what. But I'll just say I went with Butkus and Urlacher.
Mm-hmm.
Urlacher because grew up watching him and just everyone knows Dick Butkus' name and one of the greatest linebackers of all time. But I mean this was tough. Mike Singletary, obviously, Bill George. I also had Lance Briggs on my list of potential guys.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Otis Wilson. All those guys.
Yeah, it's really tough. I mean, even Wilbur Marshall, right?
Wilbur Marshall, yeah.
So you got that list. Butkus, to me, Butkus is a no-brainer. Urlacher, obviously he's in Hall of Fame, whatnot, but he got juked out by Tom Brady, so that.
So he's disqualified.
He also got run over by the bus.
When you talk about intensity, Mike Singletary, just those eyes, and
I had Mike Singletary and Brian Urlacher.
Yeah,
and then I realized I left Butkus off, and I was like, "Damn it, Adam, your list is not." But I already had it written, and it was too late. It was already intense.
Can't change it.
Yeah.
But I mean, you can't go wrong with either one of those 3 guys we all mentioned.
Yeah,
absolutely not. Yep.
No.
I might have changed my mind on Urlacher after watching him get run over by the bus in that game in Pittsburgh. I was at the game. I was in the end zone when it happened. I was right there. I was like, "Oh shit!"
Yeah.
That's something you don't plan on seeing. I mean, Urlacher just get fucking run over like a bus.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, those 2 plays you just mentioned are good, but I mean, a guy like Urlacher, a guy at his size, I mean, 6'4", he was 6'4", 250, who could move that well. That's a guy who can play in any era of football. Well, he could have played in the 1930s, and he could play right now, and it wouldn't matter. He was a unicorn.
Yeah, I did. Looking at like Lance Briggs, I didn't realize he was only 6'1". So yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Urlacher was a big boy, and then he was a big boy.
Yeah, towards the end, he was a real big boy.
Well, and I think he's a little Urlacher's a little bit taller now too, isn't he?
With the hair.
Yeah.
Anyone who's
he grew hair.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I've seen him, so.
Yeah. If you've ever driven through Chicago, you've seen about 700 Brian Urlacher as hair now billboards.
Yep.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I've been to Chicago too. I've never been to. Any of you been to Soldier?
I have not actually. I'm planning on going this year, and I actually heard from somebody, because you hear a lot that it's kind of a dump, and a lot of it's the field's terrible, and person I talked to said that actually it was a good experience going to Soldier. So I'm going to experience it for the first time this year.
Yeah, I actually have not either. I didn't grow up in Chicago, so it was hard to get out there. So I'm going for the first time this year as well.
Which game you going to?
The Lions game.
Okay,
I don't know when exactly that is, but I know my girlfriend's dad has tickets. So
nice. I think it's I think that one's in November.
Yeah, I think so too.
Is that the Thanksgiving Day game?
No,
it's not Thanksgiving Day, but I think it's like the weekend before Thanksgiving or something like that.
Yep. Yeah.
I don't think the Lions have ever played away on
Thanksgiving. Yeah, that's their time. Yeah.
Gina is in depth on this list today. She's just said so hard to leave great players off the list.
Well, isn't that the fun part of having lists, though? I mean,
right.
If you don't have any guys, if you don't have any controversy with the list, then no one cares, right?
Right.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. When everyone's like, dude, you need to do like all 4 linebackers and that would have been it would have been way too long, first of all, and then it would have turned into repeated because by doing 2 linebackers, 1 lineman on both sides, it makes people think who do I want to anchor and who do I want as my 2 in the middle.
So cornerbacks, are we just doing 1 then?
No, we're doing 4 defensive backs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I did
go with you. I did go with your shirt, Steve.
Yep, Tillman.
Yeah,
I went with Tillman as well.
It was hard not to. The punch and the 42 forced fumbles.
Yeah, no, you have. I think any conversation about Bears defensive backs has to start with Charles Tillman. This was a lot harder though than the other positions. Like, I wish we had 4 defensive linemen and 2 cornerbacks, because as good as the Bears' history of defense is, their history of defensive backs isn't as great as linebackers and defensive line. I think so. It was difficult, but Tillman. I went with Mike Brown because I grew up watching him.
He was all over the place, man.
Unfortunately, injuries. This seems to be a common theme now, but injuries kind of cut his career short. But I think when he was healthy, he was so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was he? 31, right?
Number he was
I thought he was
number 30.
30.
Yeah.
I had to go with with the 5, Dave Duerson, Gary Fensick. I mean, those just when you think of like tone setters, I mean, up front Bears had it, but they also had it in the secondary as well. So
yeah. I had Tillman, Fensick, Brown, and then I had Richie Pettibon, just because he's got all stats. But you could have easily gone with Dave Duerson too.
Pettibon is 2nd in interceptions on the team with that 37.
Yeah.
4 Pro Bowls, 1 All-Pro. I didn't. I went with George McAfee.
Okay.
Just wanted to go something different. For four, he led the league in 4 forced fumbles or fumble recoveries. He led the league 4 years in a row, I think I read.
Okay. Yeah.
So I mean, the guy's around the ball, so I like that. Mojo. But I always Tillman and Franchek. Yeah. Is that what you say it? Franchek?
Fensick. Gary Fensick. Yep.
Still learning these names, and I'm good at butchering last names really bad, just to let you know, Steve.
You're good.
So
go ahead.
Yeah, I was just looking at Bears interception leaders, and Gary Fensick has 38, top 10. So Fensick 38,
Pettibon 37.
I didn't realize this. I'm just kind of seeing this. Doug Buffon, Chicago Sports Radio. He was such a legend. He had 24 interceptions in the 60s and 70s for the Bears. But yeah, McAfee 25.
Yeah, I think the reason I didn't even think of George McAfee is I think of him more as an offensive player because he played both ways.
Mm-hmm.
So he wasn't even on my list. But yeah, that would be a good one too.
Yeah, it is tough, because he was in the 40s, and just it's such a different brand of football, and so when I think of best players, right now it's hard not to think of how the game is now, and but even some of those players in the 80s and 90s, it would definitely translate. I mean, I remember growing up and watching Donnell Wolford, and I mean, he's got 32 interceptions, so he's on that list. Tillman 36, Pettibon 37, but Fensick had 38. So yeah, and I just pretty much remember Fensick from the Super Bowl Shuffle, So, but he was looking back, he made some. I mean, he made that defensive backfield great with that defense.
Yeah, I think if you compared all the teams, the Bears might have that you're doing. You doing this all these teams. I think the Bears probably have the best defense and maybe the worst offense. I would say
in the NFL. Do you think?
Yeah, historically.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's hard to. I mean, it starts and ends with quarterback, and yeah, I would. I mean, it's hard to argue that. I mean, that would be an interesting podcast, actually.
Yeah.
Why do you guys feel that it's so hard to be a quarterback in Chicago? Is it the wind, or is it just Chicago in general, or is it always because they have usually a 2 to 3 headed running back situation?
I don't know what it is. I think it's a little bit of the mindset. I think it's difficult for a young quarterback. The media is crazy in Chicago, and you kind of see the same thing in New York too. I mean, the Jets and Giants don't really usually have good quarterbacks either. I mean, they have maybe a few more than the Bears did, but it's tough to be a young quarterback in a big market. And Bears fans will love you until they hate you, and once they hate you, you're in rough shape.
I'm gonna say it's because of the ownership.
Could be the ownership too. Yeah,
they have not known how to put anything together. I mean, it's just so. Hopefully, I mean, with what we have now, as far as we've got a general manager, we've got an assistant general manager. We're trying to do things the right way, and not just react. But yeah, I mean, when you have people who don't know football making decisions, and that makes a difference. I mean, because you try to evaluate, and you probably know this, Steve, this story of what Ryan Pace was in the draft room, that he was asking everybody about Mitch Trubisky. You had him number one, right? You had him number one. And
right.
As a general manager, you should know what a good quarterback looks like. And Mitch Trubisky, great guy, saw him in the 2019 training camp and was signing autographs, the longest.
He's a very people person, fantastic guy, but he just didn't have it. And when you want your quarterback, whether it's in any market, to have it, and I was just talking with Ronnie Eastham about Josh Allen, and he struggled and initially, as he adjusted, right, but he had that drive, and you can tell. I mean, do they have it? And Mitch Trubisky, I mean, he started 1 year for North Carolina, pretty much, right?
Right.
And so it just, is a franchise that can't, choose a quarterback. I mean, that's leadership. And the Packers have just pretty much gotten lucky, right?
Right.
Trading for Favre, Rodgers.
Yeah. They're in for Packers fans are in for a rude awakening in 2 years when Rodgers retires, and I can't wait for it.
I mean, too. Maybe even this year. It
could be.
They've got a tough schedule. And I think they're talking themselves into they'll be fine, but I agree. It's going to be fun to watch.
I think they missed out on their draft pick. I really think they wanted Treylon Burks.
Oh, Treylon Burks?
Yeah. I just do. He had the same size as Devontae Adams. I think it would have been a great fit for Rodgers.
Yeah.
But I mean, they still got Christian Walker, who seems to be doing okay.
Watson, yeah. Well, he's been injured, so he hasn't even really been. But I
Well,
mean,
now they got Rubes, right? What's his name? Robs?
Romeo Dobbs. Yeah. So
Dobbs. I'm sorry.
He's apparently looked pretty good.
but Aaron Rodgers is going to call him out in the media. I mean,
Right.
so
Always.
it's so interesting with when we talk about quarterbacks, the quarterbacks who have done it before get the benefit of the doubt, right? Like Rodgers has won a Super Bowl, but he got there versus Caleb Haney, right? So like he got there, against what was a third string quarterback. And so he can complain. He complains about the receivers in the media, but if when you think back, if Jay Cutler, had gotten to the Super Bowl, won the Super Bowl, you think of the narrative about him would be different as well.
Yeah.
But you think about it. I mean, they're almost like similar. I mean, Rodgers is pretty outspoken now, but I don't know.
You talk about similar players in terms of like how they approach the media and stuff like that, and how
Correct.
they present that, not quarterback wise. Okay.
No.
For a second there, I was like, oh, that's a
no.
that's a tough
Yeah.
take.
I'm not going there. I'm not.
No.
going there.
Okay, I see what you're
Yes.
saying now. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I think they're similar. They have a similar mindset, similar kind of persona.
Mhm.
But Rodgers has the Super Bowl victory, so
Mhm.
so he gets the benefit of the doubt. Yeah.
Do we think? I mean, obviously, this is Bears. Do we think the Packers are going to be and win the Super Bowl the next couple of years?
I don't think so.
They're not, right?
If they do, it's going to be a miracle.
Yeah. Well, their defense is pretty good this year. I mean, I think it's this year. If they don't win it this year, then it's going to be tough because Rodgers is going to be another yielder. But their defense is pretty good this year. I try to be as objective as I can. Even though I hate the Packers, their defense is objectively good. They lost. I mean, their offense. They still have Aaron Rodgers, who's a good quarterback. They lost Devontae Adams. Their wide receiver room is a little rough, but their running back room is still pretty good. So they could potentially win it this year. But if they don't, then this year,
do they run
it's going
Dillon
to get
in the
harder and
slot?
harder each year.
So do they run Dillon in the slot, or do they run Jones out there, or do they mix and match them?
Well, they use their running backs in the passing game a lot. So
I'm talking about lining them up in the slot, though.
Oh, you're talking about what?
I don't think so.
They do that from time to time. They run not so much in the slot, but they do a lot of bunch formations, a lot of trip sets, and they do put their running backs out there. They probably will do that again this year.
And it's interesting though, like what I remember AJ Dillon when he came in, they had a question about whether he was a good receiver, and I think he's improved that. His receiving out of the backfield. So I guess that's the question, Steve. We went over this with the Bears play-by-play guy, Tim Sinclair, and I don't think he was able. Well, he kind of gave us a little bit of an answer, but he wasn't able to. But so, who has the better wide receivers on the Bears or the Packers?
I mean that's tough. I think it's kind of arguing on like, do you have like the 32nd best wide receiver room or the 31st? Like, does it
Pretty
matter?
much.
But if we're gonna ask the question, I think Darnell Mooney is the best wide receiver in those two groups. And then after that, it's kind of a question mark for everyone. So Packers probably have maybe a little bit more depth, but I would take the Bears. I would take Darnell Mooney and then the couple question marks, hoping one of them breaks out over the Packers. Probably.
I totally agree. Yep.
How big of a loss is it of Robinson?
I think it's bigger loss than most Bears fans realize. Allen Robinson is a very good receiver and is not the receiver that he showed last year. And I think he's going to have a really good year in LA. So I think that is a big loss for the Bears. But I think Darnell Mooney is going to step up and kind of fill that role.
Yeah, and when you think of Allen Robinson, I almost think of like Alshon Jeffrey, where he was able to go up and get the ball.
Yeah, they don't have that guy right now.
They don't. Nope.
And that's, when you have a young quarterback like Fields, who I think has all the talent in the world, and I think he's going to be a good quarterback eventually. But he's still a young guy, and he needs to have kind of that safety net. And right now the Bears don't have that, But maybe, I don't know, maybe does Cole Kmet step up and be that contested catch guy? He hasn't really been a great contested catch guy in the past, but he's still young.
My next question was about Kmet. Is he going to be the safety valve?
Yeah, I did a breakdown of Cole Kmet on my YouTube channel, and I'm not as high on Cole Kmet as a lot of Bears fans are. I do think he's going to be good. But I think he could be used a lot more efficiently than what he was in Matt Nagy's offense. Um, so I think he's going to be that safety valve, and he's going to catch more than 0 touchdown passes this year. So I'm curious your thoughts on Cole Kmet, though.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I haven't studied kind of like you, but I mean, when you think of like safety valve or safety net, and Darnell Mooney was almost like that last year, right? I mean, they had that connection. In training camp, it seemed like Cole Kmet was, taking that step, but it's practice. You don't know until it actually, happens. And if the Bears are going to do anything on offense, if they're not going to be the worst team in the NFL, you kind of need something there from the offense. I mean, I like what they're doing on the defense, in defensive backfield, and I like those pieces, but they're going to get scored on a lot, and they're going to have to, get some points on the board, and move the sticks, right? I mean that's Bears teams of past. I mean that's it's just like so frustrating.
This is for both of you. Do you feel that Mooney is going to be as open as he was without Robinson on the other side? Is he going to be able to create the space that he had last year? Is he going to be able to create that without that other option on the other side that really needs double covered?
Yeah. I think yes, and for a couple of reasons. One, I think Darnell Mooney is a great route runner. Two, even though teams are he's going to be lined up against teams' number one cornerback more often than he was last year. The Bears are going to be moving their wide receivers around a lot, and it's not going to be you just line up on the right hash and you run your route. They're moving the guys around. They're scheming guys open, running around like mesh routes, and just letting the scheme kind of dictate things rather than just saying, "Hey, Darnell Mooney, go get open and get a first down." So I think I'm not too concerned about that. I think they're going to miss Allen Robinson from the standpoint of exactly what we just talked about. It's third down, everyone's covered, just throw it up to him and let him make a play, because Darnell Mooney's not that same kind of type of receiver. But I think I have no concerns about Darnell Mooney.
It's interesting how a good coaching staff can scheme people open, isn't it?
Yeah. We're not going to just be running 5 curls, 5 wides, and every wide receiver is running a curl route anymore. So I'm excited for that.
Or that even sound like fun to watch.
Or even making adjustments. Like if something's not working, doing something different. I mean, you found that Packer game. I mean, do something different. I mean, you even see with the Chiefs how they're able to make adjustments at the line. I mean, good players, good teams do that, and good coaches rely on their players to do what they're best at. And hopefully, I'm hoping they can get Justin Fields on the move a little bit, right? I think because that's more of his strength, right?
Definitely.
Do you guys feel that they should have went after one of his college guys, like a Garrett Wilson or someone he had connection with, like some of these teams are doing, such as Waddle and Tua and Burrow and Chase? Do you feel that would have been a better move by the Bears?
I don't know. The Bears are far enough away from contending, right? And defensively, where they were at in the draft, I was glad that they didn't trade up like they've done before. And that's just kind of like, saying, oh, this is the wide receiver that's going to be the game changer. Well, no, we've got so many other pieces. And when you talk about, the way the NFL is going now, to defend some of these quarterbacks and wide receivers, you need elite defensive backs. And so I was, with the way the draft went, I was happy that they went the players. And those are going to be, Jaquan Brisker. I mean, I think he's going to be an elite talent. And I think that's where, in the past, the Bears have, built on the defense. And I I'm just glad they didn't reach for even like a Christian Watson, because he may be great for the Packers, but it's going to take him time to develop, and so, maybe, and it's funny because, and Steve, you probably get this too. I get a lot of Packer fans like trolling me. They're saying, oh, the Bears, get ready for the Bears having the worst record. I'm like, that doesn't even faze me. If the Bears have the number 1 pick in the draft next year, that's not going to faze me, because then maybe they can, get one of the top wide receivers. Maybe they can trade down and get other pieces. There's just too many pieces right now to say, okay, let's, get rid of the rest of our draft capital to get one player. There's so many other players that they need to pick up.
If Field bombs, this next year's quarterback draft class is supposed to be better. Do they go after another quarterback?
I don't think they do. And the reason for that, assuming Fields doesn't completely bomb and just look terrible, assuming he's going to look, have some up and downs. The reason I don't think they do that is because they know they have not surrounded him with enough talent to properly evaluate him. They know that. I've talked to guys who have, who talk to guys in the front office, and they know that they're evaluating him, but they know that they have not surrounded him with the talent to properly evaluate him based on his stat line. So I think, barring a god awful performance that, even if they end up with a top 5 pick, they'll stick with Justin Fields one more year. But like, going back to what you said, trading up for like Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, that just wasn't an option based on where we were in the draft. But I do wish they would have, been a little bit more aggressive to address the wide receiver room, either in free agency, which I know free agency prices were crazy this year, but at least maybe a second round pick in the draft, something like that. But yeah, no, they're not moving on from Justin Fields after this year. I'm pretty confident about that.
Well, even you talk about the quarterbacks, it's supposed to be a great draft class. And I remember like talking to our Lions guys about the quarterbacks, and some of them aren't all that excited about the crop coming out just because they're so short. And we talk about like height. I mean, that matters, as a quarterback, right?
Yeah. And I also going back to that. Another reason is I remember when the Bears drafted Mitch Trubisky in 2017. Everyone gave the Bears shit because they drafted a guy in 2017, and everyone was like, "Oh, the 2018 draft is so much better. I can't believe they didn't do this." And they pointed to guys like Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, and those two guys I remember in particular. Like, you could have drafted one of them next year. Well, both those guys ended up sucking. And I know Josh Allen was in that draft, but that was no one was thinking about Josh Allen when the Bears in 2017 when the Bears took him. They were talking about Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield. So you can't. This quarterback draft class might look great now. We'll see how the years goes. They might bomb too, and who knows? They might not even be a quarterback worth drafting first overall next year.
I would agree.
Well, like the number 1 quarterback that was supposed to be looked out of Wake Forest towards that ACL or something, right?
Something like that, yeah. Sam Hartman, right?
Yeah, Sam.
That's his name?
Yeah, Hartman. That was his last name. I don't remember his first name.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Mr. Outdated, Miss Gina commented on our interview with Tim Sinclair.
Yeah, Tim was fantastic. Yeah, he's
nice.
he obviously he couldn't comment much on Bears personnel, he said, but gave us great insights to his process as far as like how he got the job and how he approaches the being in the booth as well. So
I had a lot of fun on that interview. I learned a lot.
Yeah,
you got to talk fast. When you got to shut up. When you got to say stuff. There's a lot of work that goes into that apparently.
Yeah.
So here was one of my questions because it didn't all come up. But can you guys name any of these players?
Any of them? Just one of them?
Well, I was going to try and go through all of them, and then
I think I can get most of them. Bronco Nagurski is 3. George McAfee is 5. George Halas is 7. I'm lost on 28. I don't know 28. But Walter Payton's 34. Gale Sayers is 40. Brian Piccolo is 41. can't remember 42. Dick Buck is 51.
51. Yep.
Is that
Any guess on 28 outdated?
Oh, that's not Fensick, is it?
Who?
no, it's not Fensick.
No.
Is it
Um,
Edibon?
No.
it's not Dewerson, is it?
Nope.
28. Offensive or defensive?
I'm not even sure.
It's
So it must
yeah.
have been the 40s. Yeah, 40s, 50s.
Yeah, I'm sure once I hear the name, I'm gonna be like, oh, I can't believe I missed
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
But
I mean,
Gallimore?
what was it?
Gallimore? Willie
Oh,
Gallimore?
Willie Gallimore. Yeah, he's a running back. He was a running back.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 51 is Dick Buckus. 56 is that Bill George?
Hewitt?
Bill Hewitt. Okay.
The other tight end. Yeah.
Yeah. 61 is Clyde Bulldog Turner.
No.
Oh, is that 66 is Clyde Bulldog Turner?
61 was the other guy you said before.
Bill George.
Yeah. And then
then
66 was
Clyde Turner. Clyde
the
Bulldog Turner.
Bulldog.
77 is Red Grange.
89 is
And
Ditka.
it's Ditka.
When are we going to see 54 on there?
Well, they're not retiring any new numbers. They just unretired 50 for Mike Singletary. So I doubt we'll see that anytime soon. But they have not given out 54 in a while. So since he retired.
Oh, so he's on Warren. It's one of those
Yeah,
quiet.
it's not retired, but no one's wearing it.
Now, do they wait for them to get in the Hall of Fame and then retire their numbers? Is that the way the Bears
I don't
do
know.
it?
That's
I don't
a good
know
question.
if they have. Yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
question. I don't know if they have a specific thing or they just kind of retire it. I don't know if all those guys are in the Hall. I think most of those guys are probably in the Hall of Fame, but like Willie Gallimore, he might not be. I don't know.
I don't think he is. Yeah, it's almost. I mean, you could be like the Commanders and start to retire numbers just to take your heat off of all the stuff that's actually happening with the team.
Yeah, right.
So, what are you guys' predictions on the season?
Oh, I don't know. Go ahead. You go first.
Well, yeah, there's so many possibilities. I mean, if Justin Fields becomes that guy, I mean he could lead the Bears to a few wins. I don't see them beating the Packers this year. I definitely don't see them beating the Vikings. I look at the Vikings and I think that they're going to have historically good offense.
You think it's been Kirk Cousins' year?
Well, and because of the new offensive regime, I think in the way they're going to be able to use, the receivers, hands down. So
Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen.
Unless the Vikings defense is just horrible. And so I think the Bears will at least split with the Lions. I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 wins, but maybe even up to 8-9 wins. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, it all depends on what Justin Fields does. Like, I really don't care what our record is this year. We're not winning a Super Bowl, so and we're not competing for a playoff spot. So I don't care what our record is, but we could be anywhere from 3 wins. If things are terrible, or maybe Justin Fields takes the next step and looks amazing, and we can win 8-9 games, and that wouldn't surprise me either. But yeah, I'll probably fall somewhere in that 5 to 7 win range.
If he goes 9-8, does he got it? Do the Bears honestly have a chance to make the playoffs in the West?
9. I don't think 9-8 gets them in the playoffs. I mean the Vikings and Packers are going to finish better than 9-8 would be my guess. So I don't.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, I mean it is going to be. I see the NFC North being a pretty terrible division overall. I mean the Packers. I think they're. Packer fans are kind of assuming that they're going to have like 13, 14 wins, but it may be like 10 or 11. So I think 12 is pushing it, with their, so they might be close. And I don't know if that's good or bad. If you think of like the way the Bears have been, they were with Cutler, right? Like they were, getting, just obviously they got to the NFC, championship game, but being average, I would rather not be average, right? If they're going to be, I would rather them be terrible this year because then that's more draft capital and more ability to find top end guys, which we need, to compete.
Yeah. I want Justin Fields to be really good and maybe have the defense give up 30 points a game and we finish 3-14 or 4-13, something like that, and then get that top 5 pick. That's my ideal.
You guys
scenario.
are playing for the draft picks.
I think that's what I mean. I'm going to be rooting for the Bears to win every game.
Yeah,
but realistically,
yeah.
Realistically, we're playing for the draft.
We all want our team to win every
Right.
game. We hate that Monday morning or Tuesday morning, depending on when you play, or even the Friday morning, like the Bears lost or the Steelers lost.
Right.
Like the town is just grudgy. It's not even fun.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and you think, I mean, that it's such a cliche to say you want your quarterback to improve and but if he is kind of taking those steps, making better decisions, and you can see, it, on tape, as you, Steve, if you see kind of making better decisions with the football, and if it's, if the offense is scoring points, and we're still losing, that's pretty much what I want to see. Right. Because I mean,
what's your realistic, what are you guys looking at for points per game? Like,
I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure how many Bears games you've watched over the last couple of years, but I feel like anything
Williams
over
beat
20,
the Steelers.
Anything over like 20 points a game is like an offensive juggernaut for Chicago. So
and that's offensive points, not defensive points.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it was some crazy stat with Nagy, like how long it had been since when he was doing the offense, the team hadn't scored like 20 some point. It was just ridiculous.
Offense was averaging like 16 points a game or something. I don't know. If we get to that 24 point per game,
has the defense ever scored more than the offense?
Oh, I'm sure.
It's well, I don't know about more, but it's been closer than you want it to be.
Yeah.
What was that year? Was that, I think it was like 20. There was one year, I think it was like 2011, 2012, where our defense scored like a touchdown in like 6 straight games or something like that. Or it was like defense and special teams, because like Hester was doing his thing. And
that had to be the Super Bowl year, right?
Bears fantasy football defense is a great one to have.
Well, it was.
Well, maybe not this year, but it was in the past. No, it wasn't the Super Bowl year. There was a year, like it was towards the end of Urlacher's career, where it was, I mean, those defensive touchdowns can be fluky sometimes, but we had the number 1 defense in fantasy because we scored so many touchdowns. So I think it was like 2012.
Hester years is still, because whenever defensive got points for returns,
it might have been. He might have contributed to that a little bit, but it was mostly defensive touchdowns. I'm pretty sure. I think it was 2012.
That's horrible. Like, I mean, it's good to see your defense scoring, but you want the offense to do the same damn thing.
Right. Yeah. Be nice if you can get
like
it at the same
defense
time.
should not be saying, "Give me the ball."
I was just thinking about like the Bears season, and there's that meme where the guy's sitting in the house, everything's on fire, and he says like, "This is fine." Like,
the person walking away.
No, the
like
little
dog.
Little dog. He's sitting in there and he's like drinking coffee or something. And he's like, "This is fine. Everything's
yeah."
And obviously that's always seen as a negative, like, oh, our team, sucks. This is fine. There it almost needs to be one that, maybe part of it, the house is on fire, but like someone's starting to put it out, and I think, that's what I want to see. I want to see that, record wise, we may look terrible. But you see the defense and you see, Jaquan Brisker learning to play against, Justin Jefferson, some of those players, right? Because that's where, you kind of get in and that's where you can actually, learn like how some of the best receivers do it. And he's going to get that, I'm not sure if Brisker is going to be on, Jefferson or how it is, but like, how they're going to do that. But I want these players to learn against some of these top end offenses, because then going forward, that's going to be huge.
So we're playing for the future right now. So possibly looking playoffs 2 years down the road, realistically.
Yeah, I
I
think.
mean, you're looking every year, obviously,
Right.
to
Well, yeah,
get
it's
to the.
not. It's not going to happen this year, but after this year, I think playoffs the following year are very realistic and kind of expected if because we have a ton of cap space. We have the most cap space in football, so the Bears are going to be aggressive in free agency next year. We're going to have a top 10, maybe top 15, top 5 pick, whatever it is. We're going to have a high draft pick, most cap space. We'll have a third-year quarterback who has shown potential. I think anything short of playoffs next year is a bust for the Bears.
So you guys are going to be like the Bengals cap room this year. I think they had like 71 million or something.
Right. I think we have close to like 100. It's like 90 million or something like that. I mean, yeah. I mean, we're gonna extend like Roquan and Darnell Mooney, but even still, we have a ton of cap space. So playoffs are bust next year.
Well, yeah, and you think about it too. I mean, this year might be important then for free agents to see, that the Bears are kind of taking that step because, like, I think of back, I'm a Steve, you're a Bulls fan, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think of, that free agent year when we were hoping to sign some of the best players and we signed Carlos Boozer, right? Players, you want players to want to come to Chicago and
right.
sign as free agents, and you can have all that space in all the space in the world. But if players don't want to come, top wide receivers, I mean, whoever kind of is on the market, if they don't want to come, that's going to be a problem as well. I mean, because it would be nice if we did draft one, but I think to get to the playoffs next year, you're going to need to have that veteran guy. Mooney, I think, maybe he can be a number one, but you need kind of that taller wide receiver as well. So
not to be picking on Mooney, but is Mooney enough of a name to bring in another guy to make a number two?
I think he will be.
I understand you just said a lot of cap room, which money speaks big. But is there going to be a free agent big enough to bring in the Phil as a number two role?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I haven't looked at like who's available next year. So off the top of my head, I don't know who's available. But I think Mooney is going to attract a wide receiver because after this year, I think Darnell Mooney is going to be much more of a household name based on the year I expect him to have. And going back to what you said about attracting free agents, it's not all about the money. It's mostly about the money, but yeah, they do want to go to a team that they think can win. Obviously, I mean, we can be kind of hoping the Bears get a top pick, but the players are out there and they're trying to win games. They're not trying to tank. So I'm not too concerned about that from a standpoint of attracting free agents. I think they'll see if everything goes according to plan, they'll see a team that's kind of on the rise and they're just a few pieces away. And they'll want to play hopefully with Justin Fields. A wide receiver who's a free agent is going to see, a up and coming quarterback who has all the potential in the world and think to themselves, hey, I can make a big payday down the road if I latch on with this team. Again, if all goes according to plan and Justin Fields takes the next step this year.
Are we worried about him being a bust at all?
I think you're always a little bit worried. There's still some things that he's shown in preseason that, mistakes that he made last year that he still kind of showed in preseason. So that's a little worrisome, kind of not going through his reads, scrambling out of clean pockets, not reading defenses properly. And it's shown up in the preseason, but he's also in the first year of a new offense. So I think it always has to be in the back of your mind that the guy you drafted is a bust, but we'll see. I still have all the hope in the world and all the belief in the world that he's going to be a good quarterback in this league, at least an average quarterback to above average quarterback in this league. Maybe he's not going to be top 2, top 3 guy, but with a guy with that much athleticism and arm talent, easy to bet on that.
And he's been in big games in college. He's so I like our chances that way. Yeah.
All right. So we're playing for picks this year, and after this year, we'll have some cap room, and we're going to be able to build and hopefully get to at least the next level,
right?
Or some people call it the promised land. So would you guys go down to a playoff game if the Bears got in? or if it happened to be in Lambeau, is that closer to you guys?
I would go to a Super Bowl if the Bears are in it. I've been to I haven't been to Soldier Field, but I've been to other NFL games, and I think I just enjoy watching the games on TV so much better. It's so much easier to see what's going on. So I would be too much of a nervous wreck to actually be in a stadium for a playoff game. But if the Bears win the Super Bowl, I'll buy a ticket and go to that.
Not going to be cheap, but yeah.
No, I'll find a way. I'll find a way. It only happens. It hasn't even happened in my lifetime, so I feel like if it happens, I gotta go.
Well, I'll tell you what, I had a chance to go to the NL Championship clinching game for the Cubs in 2016. My buddies went, and their nosebleeds, tickets, and I didn't take the opportunity, and I regret it. So I definitely would. Super Bowl, yes. Playoff game. It is a little bit hard, stretch, maybe in a couple years when I feel like they are like a playoff favorite, like, okay, we're kind of expecting they still have a lot to build, and I think there's a lot, to look at the team and say, we're excited for the future. Just not now.
Andy, but if they go like soon, we might want to go there because it gets a little cold in Chicago. And us getting older, what happens? Like we start panicking and shit.
I'll go when they have the new stadium.
There you go.
The indoor stadium.
When we get the dome.
Exactly.
I like it.
All right, guys. We're at an hour and 16 minutes. Is there anything else we'd like to go over with the Bears?
I'm good. I think we covered it pretty well.
Yeah.
I had a lot of fun, guys.
Yeah.
I tried to do something different with an all-time lineup. I did throw a little trivia at you, and you guys pretty much killed it. You only got that one.
I didn't. Steve,
yeah,
that was all
Steve. Steve was on fire.
Yeah.
I'm going to lose sleep over missing those couple, though.
You're not going to lose any sleep. We both know that. But hey, maybe we could do a Packers and Bears preview. During the week, we can come on and BS. Maybe get the Packers guys to come on. They would outnumber you unless you could find me one or two more.
I'm sure we can get a couple more.
Oh, yeah.
It always gets a little more intense whenever there's Packer fans coming on, right? Is that your biggest rival? Or is it the Lions or
Packers?
Is it the Vikes?
Well, they're the only team that's got a song about us, right?
Right. Yeah.
Which living in Wisconsin is just, yeah.
I hear it too many times.
Well, this is the I-94 matchup too, right? Is it the same highway as it is for the Brewers?
Oh, no.
Lambeau's in a whole different area.
It's like north. It's north of Milwaukee, but you have to get on a different highway.
Chicago is almost closer. It's pretty close than Green Bay, and Green Bay is like terrible to get in and out of.
Yeah.
Is it like that place in Foxborough? One way in, one way out. Yeah, like Foxborough is like 45 minutes from Boston.
Yeah. And
it's a little town, and that's all pretty much is the stadium, from what people say that live there.
Yeah, actually, I worked, had an advertising account in Green Bay, and actually from my hotel, I walked in my Bears stuff through neighborhoods all the way to the Lambeau, and it's just like their neighborhoods right up to it. It's crazy. So.
All right. Well, Gina threw out some final quotes, shots here. Awesome show, guys. She said, "I'll see you soon, Andy." And then she's like, "Oh yeah, Steve, I hope to see you soon too."
Yep.
So
just let me know what time and when.
Oh, Andy, what we're doing that Friday with Gina?
Was that Friday?
I don't know. Friday or Thursday.
It's coming up.
Yeah. So, but hey, guys, it's been fun. Like I said, we'll get a round table going with the. Would you guys prefer Packers? Is that what the team we'd rather shoot for? I don't know what week that is. I don't have my schedule in front of me.
Yeah, Packers.
Packers would be great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's do it. Thank you guys for coming on. It's I know it's a little late, but well, in my neck of the woods, it's late. It's 12:30. It's only 11:30 there, but I'm sure you can still have jobs and wives,
Oh, yeah.
girlfriends, kids. So let's give some final shout outs. Steve, how do people get a hold of you?
Mostly on Twitter at CFC Bears. Also have a YouTube channel, Chicago Football Connection.
All right. And how often do you do a show a week?
It's been sporadic. Usually it's once a week, but it's not at a specific time. I usually record it and then post it.
Okay. Andy?
And I've updated on Twitter and YouTube, and we do the NFC North Friesen 4 on Wednesdays, 8:30 Central Standard Time, and then also I do my other podcasts sporadically as well. But and when the season comes, got to be doing more. So
Exactly.
bear down,
guys. All right. If you want to hang out for a minute, I'm going to do my closing here. If you guys want to hang out for a minute afterwards, that'd be cool. If not, I will talk to you later. And thank you for coming on.
All right. Thanks for having me.